Hello, everyone. This is Lance Smith, and welcome to the Bible Difficulties and Answers podcast. I'm truly grateful you're here today as we take a thoughtful look at some of the tougher questions in Scripture. My goal is to carefully unpack these challenges, discover the truths they reveal, and grow together in our understanding. Whether you've been poring over the Bible for decades or are just starting to explore its pages, we're all a part of this journey. Today, we're diving into a deep one. Can lying ever be justified? What if telling the truth puts innocent lives at stake? And can God bless someone who deceives an authority figure? We're stepping into a compelling story from Exodus about two midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, who faced a gut-wrenching moral choice under Pharaoh's ruthless command. Last week, we met them as vital figures among the Hebrews in Exodus 1. Now, we'll pick up their story in Exodus 1:15 through 21 to see how God responded when they disobeyed Pharaoh, a ruler established by God, and misled him. This touches on ethics, obedience, and divine justice, so let's get started. Let's begin with the passage straight from Exodus 1:15 to 21 in the New Living Translation. Then Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, gave this order to the Hebrew midwives, Shiphrah and Puah. When you help the Hebrew women as they give birth, watch as they deliver. If the baby is a boy, kill him. If it is a girl, let her live. But because the midwives feared God, they refused to obey the king's orders. They allowed the boys to live too. So the king of Egypt called for the midwives. "Why have you done this?" he demanded. "Why have you allowed the boys to live?" "The Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women," the midwives replied. "They are more vigorous and have their babies so quickly that we cannot get there in time." So God was good to the midwives, and the Israelites continued to multiply, growing more and more powerful. And because the midwives feared God, He gave them families of their own. Now, here's the puzzle as laid out in the Big Book of Bible Difficulties, where they write this. The Bible declares that the authorities that exist are appointed by God. That's Romans 13:1. The scripture also says lying lips are an abomination to the Lord. That's Proverbs 12:22. But the Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had given a direct order to the Hebrew midwives to murder the newborn Hebrew boys. But because the midwives feared God, they refused to obey the king's orders. They allowed the boys to live, as we read in Exodus 1:17. Not only did the midwives disobey Pharaoh, but when he questioned them about their actions, they lied, saying, "The Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women," the midwives replied. "They are more vigorous and have their babies so quickly that we cannot get there in time," as we read in Exodus 1:19. In spite of this, Exodus 1:20 to 21 states that God was good to the midwives. He gave them families of their own. How could God bless the midwives for disobedience and lying? Okay, the Big Book of Bible Difficulties solution is pretty detailed, so I'll boil it down for us with this. The midwives faced an unavoidable moral dilemma: obey Pharaoh's order to commit infanticide or follow God's higher law to preserve life. Choosing the latter, they disobeyed Pharaoh and lied to protect innocent children. While God commands obedience to governing authorities, His law against murder takes precedence. The text affirms that God blessed the midwives because they feared Him, not necessarily because of their deception. Their lie was part of their effort to save lives, making it a case of choosing the greater moral obligation. This aligns with biblical principles. When human commands contradict God's law, obedience to Him must come first. Now that we've got the moral framework from the Big Book of Bible Difficulties, let's step back and see the bigger stage that this is played out on. For some context, BibleRef.com sums it up well with this. Exodus 1:15 to 22 describes the most drastic attempt to curb Israeli population growth. After enslavement and brutality, the Hebrews are still growing. Out of fear, the Egyptians seek other ways of reducing Israeli power. Here, Pharaoh will enact a program of infanticide, ordering Hebrew midwives to murder male Jewish babies. When they resist, Egypt's king extends this command to the Egyptian people in general. This backdrop of murder sets the scene for the rise of Moses, the eventual leader of the nation of Israel. So, that's the big question we're tackling. How could God bless the midwives for disobeying Pharaoh and lying to him? I'll explore it through 5 key points: a higher moral obligation, civil disobedience in a biblical context, the moral dilemma of their lie, God's blessing and sovereignty, and the bigger picture. Let's walk through this together, step by step. First, a higher moral obligation. At the heart of this is the midwives' fear of God. They saw his authority as above Pharaoh's. I remember as a kid facing a choice between sneaking an extra cookie, which is against mom's rules, or owning up. Let's just say my stealth skills weren't ninja level, and the crumbs gave me away every time. It's small potatoes compared to this, but it taught me that some rules outweigh others. For Shiphrah and Puah, Pharaoh's orders to kill babies clashed with God's law against murder, later etched in Exodus 20:13. They had to decide, obey an unjust ruler or follow God's higher command. They chose life, not out of rebellion, but faithfulness. Let's transition to a real-world parallel. A few years back, I read about a woman who worked as a nurse during a crisis. She once had to sneak medical supplies past a corrupt hospital administrator to save a patient. She didn't love bending the rules, but lives were on the line. It echoes what the midwives did. Sometimes the right choice isn't the easy one. And that leads us to our second point: civil disobedience in a biblical context. Scripture doesn't always condemn resisting authority. Think of Daniel praying despite the king's ban, that's Daniel 6, or Peter and John telling the Sanhedrin, we must obey God rather than men, Acts 5:29. Romans 13:1 establishes authority, but when it turns wicked, loyalty to God can mean standing firm. A friend of mine once refused to fudge numbers at work, even under pressure from his boss due to a potential company merger. The merger didn't happen, and it cost him a promotion with our current company, but he slept better knowing he had done right. Here's another angle on this. My grandfather once told me the story of a quiet farmer named Tom years ago. During a drought, the local water board ordered everyone to stop irrigating their fields. Fair enough, except Tom noticed they were still letting big commercial outfits pump away. He kept watering his crops, just enough to save them, even though it broke the rules. When they caught him, he said, I answer to a higher law, feeding my family and neighbors. He faced a fine, but the community rallied around him. It's not Pharaoh-level stakes, but it shows how standing up to unjust orders can come from a place of principle. The midwives took a similar stand. Pharaoh's command was evil, so they honored God instead. No wonder they didn't deliver on his orders. Okay, pun intended there. Now, let's shift gears to the third point, the moral dilemma of their lie. Lying's a no-no in Scripture. Exodus 20:16 is clear. But this isn't so simple. Their deception saved lives in a desperate moment. I once heard about a World War II family hiding friends from danger. They misled the searchers to protect them. Tough call, right? It's the kind of choice that makes you wonder where the line is. Some say a lie to prevent evil is okay in extremes. Others argue God blessed the midwives' faith, not their fib. The text says God dealt well with the midwives because they feared him, Exodus 1:21. It's their reverence that counted, not their exact wording. Now, let's bring it closer to home with another story to chew on. Back in college in my MBA program, a buddy of mine faced a dilemma when his roommate asked him to lie about a missed deadline. He didn't. He told the truth, but later wondered if a white lie might have spared feelings without real harm. Me, I'd have probably botched the lie anyway. As for those family and friends who know me well, my poker face is more like a neon sign. For the midwives, though, the stakes were life and death, not just a late paper. Their choice wasn't casual. It was calculated to save those boys. Moving on to our fourth point, God's blessing and sovereignty. God didn't wink at lying. He honored their commitment to life. Israel grew stronger, and the midwives received families of their own. It's like when you do the right thing and blessings sneak up on you. Years ago, I helped a church member in a bind, expecting nothing back, and later those involved returned the favor tenfold. You could say God throws a divine surprise party sometimes, quietly rewarding faithfulness when you least expect it. For Shiphrah and Puah, God's favor showed he values life and justice over blind obedience to tyrants. His bigger plan was unfolding. Finally, let's zoom out to the big picture. These midwives weren't just delivering babies, they were delivering God's justice. Craig Anderson, in his 2014 article, notes their names, Shiphrah and Puah, stand out, while Pharaoh's a nameless shadow. In Exodus, called Shemot, or names in Hebrew, that's deliberate. Their story asks, where's our allegiance? When human rules clash with God's, He comes first. It's a reminder that even in hard moments, we can play a role in something greater. Their courage ripples through history, and maybe ours can too. So, did God bless them for lying? Not quite. He blessed their faith, their stand for life, their trust in Him over Pharaoh. Were they justified? I think so. It's faithfulness under fire. The lie's tricky, necessary for some, overlooked for their heart by others. What's your take? I'd love to hear it. Looking ahead, next Friday we'll tackle Exodus 3:22. How could a loving God tell the Hebrews to plunder the Egyptians? And is plunder even the right word? It's a good one, so stick around. Thanks for joining me today, friends. If this strikes a chord, check out our Bible Difficulties and Answers Facebook page. Connect with me and others. Visit BibleDifficultiesandAnswers.podbean.com or email me at BibleDifficultiesandAnswers@gmail.com. I'm always happy to chat. Please like, subscribe, and drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you listen. It helps share these insights with more folks. Again, I'm Lance Smith. Until next time, I wish you good luck, good health, and God bless. So long, everybody.